Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we have a highly anticipated video on my end, of course. Today we're basically going to be reviewing the final meals of some people who were sentenced on death row. For those of you that don't know what death row is where they send the really, really, really bad criminals. People who are so bad that being in jail for the rest of their life is not a big enough punishment for them. Death row is where people get sent to be killed. Although these people are sentenced to death, they get one wish before they get killed, and that is their final meal. They get to pick almost whatever they want to be their final meal before they get executed by lethal injection. Some of these final requests are kind of strange, and that's the ones that I'm going to be picking to do on this video, because you would expect these people to go all out and get like all the food they can possibly eat. But some of these requests are pretty strange, which you're going to see starting now. The first person on my list is Thomas J Grasso. Thomas was a 29-year-old man when he was sentenced in Tulsa in death row. He was executed on March 20th, 1995 for the murder of 2 people. There's something interesting about this request because Thomas requested SpaghettiOs. But apparently, before he was injected, he told the press that he did not get his SpaghettiOs. They gave him spaghetti. And he wanted the whole world to know that he did not get what he requested. So I made sure that I got what he requested, which is SpaghettiOs. Honestly, if I was about to get injected, to die, SpaghettiOs would not be my go-to, my meal before I'm gone. But to each their own. I mean, it's not bad, but I'd go all out. I would not go with this. The next person we're going to be talking about is James Edward Smith. James was an inmate in death row. He was a former priest who killed a man during a robbery with a fatal shot to the chest. In 1990, he was executed in Texas by lethal injection. The interesting part about James is that his last meal request was, in fact, a lump of dirt, which he got denied, by the way. They, believe it or not, did not give him a pile of dirt. But there's something about this pile of dirt that's interesting that most people don't know about. So the dirt that he requested was actually going to be used as voodoo dirt for a ritual in which the dirt is basically used to mark a person's body so that the spirit can move on and not become a ghost. Once this request was denied, like I mentioned before, he settled on a yogurt. Pretty big difference. The next person that we are going to be talking about is Victor Faguere. This is another one of the well-known last meal requests by inmates. Victor happened to order or request a single olive. That just fell out of my plate. He requested a single olive, okay? But he had a specific request. It needed to have the pit still inside, which is that little hard thing inside of the olive. I don't know why, but that was his last request. And apparently, the pit of the olive was actually found inside his suit pocket, and it was buried with him. So the reason, the reason Victor still wanted the pit of the olive inside the pit is he told guards, the prison guards, that he wanted an olive tree to grow from his grave as a form of peace. Don't understand why he was sentenced to death for very, very bad crimes. yet wanted a form of peace to grow out of his grave. So next on the list, we actually have a man named Angel Diaz, who, again, a convict who was executed by lethal injection by the state of Florida. He was convicted of shooting and killing a manager of a strip club in 1979. Although he always told that he was innocent and that he did not do anything until the day he was executed. Therefore, he did not request anything for his final meal. Instead, his final words were, "The state of Florida is making a big mistake. I am an innocent man. I did not do anything." So they gave him a typical Wednesday prison dinner, lunch, whatever it was. It's like turkey, something like that. But yeah, he did not make any special requests for what he wanted to eat that day because he did not think he was guilty. He persisted that he did not commit any crimes. Therefore, he did not want anything for his final meal. The following person is probably one of the most well-known death row inmates, Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer who kidnapped and murdered numerous young women and girls during the 1970s and possibly even earlier. After more than a decade of denials, he confessed to 30 homicides committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. And a matter of fact, his true victim total is unknown. It could be much higher. Ted Bundy was another individual who declined to request anything as his final meal, in which he was given, again, the standard, which was steak, eggs, hash browns, and toast. But the interesting thing is Ted Bundy didn't even pick at the food at all. Instead, he died hungry. Cold-blooded, man. Cold-blooded. The next person we have on this list is actually the first ever woman to be executed by lethal injection, and her name was Velma Barfield. Velma Barfield was an American serial killer who was convicted of 1 murder, but eventually confessed to 6 in total. Like I said before, she was the first ever woman to be executed by lethal injection, and her request for her final meal was Cheeto Puffs and a Coke. Let me tell you something. She was a very, very bad woman. What she did was not right, but if I was on death row and I had to pick a final meal, I would not mind. Oh, Coke hits different, dude. Oh, but yeah, like I was saying, if I was on death row and I had a final meal request, hey, you can't go wrong with cheese puffs and Coke. You can't. The other guy just chose nothing. She at least chose Cheeto Puffs and Coke. This next person we're talking about, his name is Timothy Mcveigh. The interesting part about Timothy is that he was actually the Gulf War. He was one of the veterans of the Gulf War. And apparently he was seeking revenge on federal government for the 1993 Waco siege that ended in the deaths of 82 people, many of whom were children. His way of fighting justice was a little bit different. Timothy Mcveigh was an American domestic terrorist responsible for the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing that killed 168 people. 19 of them were children and injured more than 680 others. This bombing was considered one of the most deadliest acts of terrorism in the United States before the attacks of 9/11. Timothy, being one of the most deadly domestic terrorists in the United States, he was executed by the state of Indiana in 2001, and for his last meal, believe it or not, he asked for 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. Now listen, the guy was a terrorist, horrible human being, but I would say his request for his final meal mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's a pretty interesting one. Not only was it interesting, but pretty good choice if you ask me. I would not mind having ice cream being my last meal before I get injected lethally. I approve of this. I approve of the mint ice cream. No doubt about it. Personally, again, really bad guy. Don't like him at all. He's a terrorist. But his final meal, probably one of my favorites for today's video. Possibly. We'll see. We still got one more to go through. But as of now, currently my favorite. The final person we're going to be speaking about is Philip Ray Workman. Philip was another, obviously, death row inmate. He was executed by the state of Tennessee on May 9th, 2007. He was convicted in 1982 for the murder of a police officer after following a robbery of a Wendy's restaurant in Memphis. Now hear me out, right? Imagine robbing a Wendy's. Like why a Wendy's to begin with? That's besides the point though, but whatever. Okay, so he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. And Philip's final meal request was a large vegetarian pizza, which I don't have right now. I have no vegetarian pizza in front of me. Why? Because Philip Ray Workman actually didn't eat the vegetarian pizza. He told the guards to give the vegetarian pizza to a homeless person in need who was hungry or needed food. Listen, that does not change what he did and why he was sentenced, but hear me out. I genuinely think after this guy was in prison, he found his true self, realized what he did, and wanted to go down as not as bad as a guy as he really was. And he wanted to have at least one act of kindness before he left the world. Which I don't think anybody truly knows if that pizza was given to the homeless people or not, but it was a thought that mattered. Kind of wanted to leave the video kind of on a happy note since I've been talking about murders and robberies the entire time. At least this guy wanted to give back or give away his last meal to people who actually needed it. I mean, he was getting executed. Did it really matter if he was hungry or not? Let's be honest. But he wanted to give his pizza, his final meal, to a homeless person in need. At least he did something nice before he got executed. But yes, guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. Overall, some of these last meal requests were strange. I didn't eat the dirt. Not doing that. Some of them didn't even want anything. They just got prison food. I don't know what prison food is. I'm not in prison. I don't think I can get a hold of prison food. But probably similar to like school food or something, honestly. But yeah, on that note, thank you guys for watching. If you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. Tell me what your final request would be if you were on death row. Yeah, let's do that. If you were on death row, what would your final food request be? Put that in the comments down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.